Hi, Stars fans. Stevens Sports Information Director Nicholas Petroni. On the eighth edition of Speaking with Stars, today I'm joined by Stevens head esports coach, Adrienne McIntire. Adrienne, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. First question is, have you been staying safe during the coronavirus? And how has your family been?
Yeah, I've been safe. I moved here in April, so I haven't been able to go anywhere anyway. But family's okay. Um, Everybody's doing good.
How has your daily routine changed since you've essentially been stuck at home with quarantine closing everything?
It really hasn't. Um, I pretty much just spend 10 hours a day on my computer, quarantine or not, so hasn't changed too much.
What has the communication process been like with the returning esports players because you haven't been able to meet with them yet since campus has been closed?
It's been a little difficult, just getting in contact with everybody, but I've had a couple meetings with all the players, and we're kind of taking this downtime to talk about what we want to do next semester, um, and how we want to get there. So it's been productive, even though it's been slow.
What have those conversations entailed in addition to talking about what the focus of the team would be on during the next semester?
Um, it's been, how we're going to restructure things, what player and team expectations are, um, extra things that we're wanting to do with the program. We're wanting to offer like portfolio opportunities with digital media, possible internships, apprenticeships with teams and esports leagues. Um, so it's been a lot of like brainstorming how we're going to get to that point.
Since you have the opportunity to establish the program the way you want it, what are some key criteria or focus for you that you're looking to make synonymous with the Overwatch team for Stevens?
So it's going to be just understanding, like building a professional environment. Even though it's a game, there's still a lot that you can translate from gaming to like your professional life. um, Teamwork, communicating, um, time management for sure. Um, Kind of just going from the fundamentals of the game to translating to real life.
As you look to formulate a schedule against opponents, what do you look for in setting up matchups?
Um, we the way I always set matches up is obviously I figure out when my team's available, and I get a secondary and then a third option. Um, and we kind of just we're like, hey, this is the day that we can do. Will that work for you? Usually it doesn't. So we kind of have to bounce back and forth on dates and times that are going to work for everybody.
What has the recruiting process been like for you since you haven't been able to have anyone on campus?
It's been a lot of just posting in discords, like where players are already looking for teams or scholarships. Um, I've talked to a few players that I've met in game that are interested. It's been tricky, but it's not much different than any other team that I'd recruit for. It's just extra steps.
What are the selling points you mention about Stevens, or what are some of the things that recruits say to you that appeal to them about the school?
Obviously the biggest selling point is we're a women's school. Like we're the only school in the country that offers that aspect. It's hard for girls to compete. It just is. So we're more inviting. Um, and people are definitely interested in the scholarship. So and as well as like the route that we're taking. Most collegiate sports are all about, we're gonna be the best, we're gonna win, we're gonna get the trophies and all that. We want to focus on like getting these girls into their area of study within esports. a lot of my players are into like digital filmmaking, graphic design. That's a really big part of esports. So it's going to be easier for us to introduce them to internships and get portfolio building opportunities with our platform. So that's kind of something that people are interested in.
What are some examples of things that people can use, whether it's designing video games or 3D graphics for movies or whatever? What are some of those avenues that you think that students will pursue?
I mean, I have one player that she's interested in game design, development, coding, stuff like that. Even though esports isn't necessarily coding, it exposes her to that platform. She can understand how the game's been built, and possibly have a chance to like work with people who like devs. Granted, that's going to be a long road, but we're looking at like all aspects from design to statistics and analytics. As far as implementing like our students' majors, I mean, graphic design is the easiest one to kind of exemplify. Um, all esports teams are built off of PR. So if we have really cool like social media, if we have really nice graphics, it gets our students' work out there, and it's going to open the door for them to work with other professional teams, either on an internship basis or an entry-level basis.
With coronavirus having shut down sports worldwide for the better part of the last 2 months, there's been an explosion in esports and video game versions of sports, with NBA players playing NBA 2K or baseball players playing the show. As being a person that works in esports, that must really excite you to see the explosion of it, not only publicly, but the coverage of these kinds of iRacing or esports events.
Definitely. I mean, 3 years ago, people were saying, video games are an addiction, that these teenagers, video games cause violence. And now it's like, no, video games are helping like stave off depression from not being able to go out. They're definitely helpful for a ton of different reasons. So I'm really glad that media is kind of focusing on gaming and esports in a more positive light. Um, and it's kind of validifying the program itself. It's not just a program for, oh well, I guess we'll do this. It's a real sport. It's a lot of time and energy.
What excites you the most about the rise in coverage of esports during the last couple of months?
Um, I'm really excited to see where other games are going to take this. Like for example, Valorant just came out, publicly a week or so ago. Um, and I want to see more video games take on an esports like competitive scene. I mean, there's some out there, and there are some that have been around for a long time, like CS:GO or League of Legends. But I want to see what else is going to be coming out in the next few years because of all this.
What, from your background, have you been able to relay to your players in terms of Overwatch or any other aspect of esports that you feel has been able to help them from a coaching perspective?
I mean, I still work with other teams, like friends teams that aren't in like the collegiate scene. So a few of the players have sat in on those scrims to kind of begin understanding where I want us to be in the next couple semesters. Um, from like a coaching standpoint, I haven't done much other than implement like a very clear structure, which is something that the players told me they really wanted. They wanted new structure. They wanted more clear guidelines and expectations. And coming from like the tier 3 scene, it was really easy to kind of import that. Um, but we're just now starting to look into the coaching aspect, who's going to be on what role, how we're going to do this, um, how we're going to decide who's like the starter or the sub. But we're not going to talk about it much more until, a couple weeks from now.
On a different note, Stevens is one of the most pet-friendly campuses in the country, and I can see behind you, you have a couple of critters. Why don't you
Yeah.
introduce them to all of us, names, pet types, etc.
Yeah, so behind me is actually my rabbit. I adopted her before I moved out here. I actually adopted her because her name is Adrienne. Um, so I've got her. I also recently adopted a cat from one of the shelters around here. Her name is Endora. She's hiding
Over your right
somewhere.
shoulder for most of the video
Yeah.
I was seeing earlier.
Yeah, she's around here somewhere. And then I have Fergus, who is a collie, and he's actually also my service dog. So.
Okay. Can any Stevens fans expect to see any of those pets on campus?
Probably. Yeah, I definitely am gonna be bringing Fergus around at some point, but we'll see about the others.
And I want to thank you for joining me on the 8th episode of Speaking with Stars. I hope you continue to stay safe, and hopefully you'll be able to meet your players on campus for the first time in a couple of months.
Yep. Thanks. You too.